Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the books that I want to read in August. So for this month, I really want to focus on finding good fiction books. So far I've read a lot of great nonfiction and also some great works of philosophy, but I haven't really found any fiction novels that I would consider to be 5-star reads. So when it comes to fiction so far this year, most of what I've been reading have been classics. And then I've also read some more contemporary fiction books that are definitely not my typical style. This month I'm going to be focusing more on contemporary literature and specifically literary fiction. From my understanding, these are novels that are not very plot heavy, but they tend to have very beautiful prose. So I'm going to start by talking about a few books that I am currently reading and that I plan to finish this month. The first book I want to talk about is a book I just started yesterday, and that is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. This book was written in 1923 and is a collection of philosophical essays that have been described as philosophical, spiritual, and inspirational. The book is divided into 28 chapters covering topics such as love, marriage, children, giving, eating and drinking, work, joy and sorrow, housing, clothes, buying and selling, crime and punishment, laws, freedom, reason and passion, pain, self-knowledge, teaching, friendship, talking, time, good and evil, prayer, pleasure, beauty, religion, and death. So I'm listening to the audiobook, and yesterday I listened to the first few chapters, and it just felt like a very beautiful meditation on some of life's biggest questions. So I'm excited to keep listening to this. The second novel I started reading yesterday is Every Day is for the Thief by Teju. This book follows a young Nigerian man who lives in New York City, and it's interesting because the main character used to live in Lagos and is now returning after many years away. And you can see that things that used to be normal, everyday occurrences to him really bother him and are things that he spends some time meditating on. Things like the constant bribes and corruption within the city, the traffic, the sort of vigilante justice that takes place. Overall, I'm really enjoying this novel. I've never read any of Teju's work before, but I have been meaning to, and I really enjoy his prose. It's very meditative, contemplative. Not much is going on, but I've really been enjoying his writing and his writing style. So every month I do try and read at least one work of nonfiction that deals with anti-capitalism, decolonization, that sort of thing. So this month I have 2 books that I have started reading that deal with those sorts of topics. The first is State and Revolution by Vladimir Lenin, and the second is The Anticapitalist Book of Fashion, and that is by Tansy Hoskins. So first, State and Revolution. I've read this book before. I can't remember when, but a few years ago. I've always been relatively interested in communism and Marx, but I just found Marx a little bit challenging to read. And I remember looking on Reddit for suggestions about where to start with communism, and a lot of people recommended State and Revolution as a first place to start, and I actually would really agree with that. And the reason for that is in State and Revolution, Lenin takes a number of quotes from Marx and Engels, very long quotes actually, and sets them out in the book and then explains them. So you essentially are getting a great communist thinker interpreting Marx and then talking about how Marxist concepts can be used in practice. And what I really enjoy about this work is it's very practical. It looks at how to take Marx and actually go about having a revolution in European society. I also will say it's written really well. Like, it's a very enjoyable read. I struggle a lot with nonfiction because often I feel in nonfiction the focus is not on beautiful sentences, it's more on getting the message across. I would say this reads really well. I enjoy it. Lenin made me laugh quite a bit. So I've started rereading it. I'm reading it very slowly, so I might not actually be able to finish it this month, but I've been thoroughly enjoying this reread. The next book is The Anticapitalist Book of Fashion, and this is by Tansy Hoskins. I got this from the library, and it's funny, I am the sort of person that usually when I go to the library, I know exactly what I want to read, and I don't really stray away from that. But This book caught my fancy, I think partially because of the neon green cover. And I have been looking for a book that talks about the downsides of fashion. So I have another channel that talks more about lifestyle content. And on that channel, I've been talking about my journey with sustainability when it comes to fashion, specifically looking at brands that pay their workers fair wages and don't use child labor. And I've really been looking for a text that talked about that, but I found a lot of the books about sustainability within fashion were more opinions and didn't really seem to be well researched. So I hadn't managed to find a book that actually was exactly what I was looking for. And then I found this, and I'm just going to read part of what's on the back of the book because I think it summarizes it quite well. Fashion brands entice us to consume more by manipulating us to feel ugly, poor, and worthless. Sentiments that line the pockets of billionaires exploiting colonial supply chains. Garment workers on poverty pay risk their lives in dangerous factories, animals are tortured, fossil fuels extracted, and toxic chemicals spread just to keep this season's collections fresh. We can do better than this. Moving between Karl Lagerfeld and Karl Marx, the Anticapitalist book of fashion goes beyond ethical fashion and consumer responsibility, showing that if we want to feel comfortable in our clothes, we need to reshape the system and ensure that this is not our last season. So I got this as an audiobook, and I've been listening to that on Audible and then reading along with the physical copy. So far, I'm glad I got the audiobook. I think I would have struggled to just sit and read it, but I have been enjoying it, and it's very, very modern. I can't remember the year that it was written. So it was written in 2022, very modern. Like there was one chapter talking about Shein side, the fast fashion retailer. So really contemporary in nature and really, really great, and ties in sort of ideas by Marx and I would say more Engels in a really interesting way. I've never seen someone criticize the fashion industry and capitalism in the same way in such a contemporary book. So really been enjoying this, really, really liking it. And I actually have now been looking more into this publishing company, which is Pluto Press, because they have really interesting anti-capitalist, anti-colonial, nonfiction books. But I will talk more about that in another video. So now I'm going to talk about a few books I want to read in August that I have not started reading yet. Although technically I started reading a little bit of this first one. So the first one I want to talk about is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. And I came across this because it is a long list for the Man Booker Prize this year. Just going to read a little bit of information from the back of the book. Selected for one of the last space station missions of its kind before the program is dismantled, these astronauts and cosmonauts from America, Russia, Italy, Britain, and Spain have left their lives behind to travel at a speed of over 17,000 miles an hour as the Earth reels below. We glimpse moments of their earthly lives through brief communications with family, their photos, and talismans. We watch them whip up dehydrated meals, float in gravity-free sleep, and exercise in regimented routines to prevent atrophying muscles. We witness them form bonds that will stand between them and utter solitude. Most of all, we are with them as they behold and record their silent blue planet. Their experiences of 16 sunrises and sunsets and the bright, blinking constellations of the galaxy are at once breathtakingly awesome and surprisingly intimate. So are the marks of civilization far below, encrusted on the planet on which we live. Profound, contemplative, and gorgeous, Orbital is an eloquent meditation on space and a moving elegy to our humanity, environment, and planet. So when I read the back of the book, it just sounded very interesting, very calming, very meditative, very contemplative, and it reminded me a little bit of Pure Color by Sheila Heti, which I read earlier this year. I'm still not sure how I feel about that book, but I wanted something a bit like that. Experimental, different, something to sort of get immersed in, and something that was relatively short. Typically I don't read the long list for the Man Booker Prize. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it this year, but I at least wanted to try reading a book on the list that sounded interesting to me. The next book that I want to read this month is There, There by Tommy Orange. So I came across this book because Tommy Orange's newest book, Wandering Stars, has been nominated for the Man Booker Prize. And before I jumped into that, I wanted to try his earlier books, which is There. So Tommy Orange is an indigenous author from America. I think in America they typically refer to indigenous people as First Nations. And this novel follows 12 characters from native communities who all travel to the big Oakland powwow. Reading a little bit from the back of the book. Among them is Jackie Redfeather, newly sober and trying to make it back to the family she left behind. Denis Oxendene, pulling his life together after his uncle's death and working at the powwow to honor his memory. 14-year-old Orbital, coming to perform traditional dance for the very first time. Together, this chorus of voices tells of the plight of the urban Native American, grappling with a complex and painful history, with an inheritance of beauty and spirituality, with communion and sacrifice and heroism. And this book was nominated for a number of awards, including the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2019. I'll eventually make a video about literature awards. I don't know how I necessarily feel about book awards, and it's like who are the people that are nominating these books. But anyway, those sorts of awards are ways that I find out about books that I might not necessarily have known about otherwise. So the last book that I want to read in August is Cobalt Red, How the Blood of the Congo Powers Our Lives, and that's by Siddarth. I have really been trying to educate myself about different wars that are going on in the world and different atrocities, and how we as consumers might have some sort of a responsibility to use our consumer dollars in different ways. And I understand that what's going on in the Congo, part of the issue is this mining of cobalt. So I've been wanting to inform myself more about exactly what the situation is, and I came across this book. So I'm just going to read a little bit off the back of the book. Cobalt is an essential component to every lithium-ion rechargeable battery made today. The batteries that power our smartphones, tablets, laptops, and electric vehicles. Roughly 75% of the world's supply of cobalt is mined in the Congo, often by peasants and children in subhuman conditions. Billions of people in the world cannot conduct their daily lives without participating in a human rights and environmental catastrophe in the Congo. In this stark and crucial book, Kara argues that we must all care about what is happening in the Congo, because we are all implicated. I think part of solidarity and part of helping to fight oppression around the world involves learning about other people's struggles and what they're going through, and seeing ways in which you can help them overcome their oppression. I know in the Democratic Republic of Congo there have been wars going on for years, and I've really just been wanting to inform myself more about what's going on and ways in which I might unintentionally be complicit in helping that war continue going on. And I know people have been talking about boycotting Apple and places like that, but it's just something that I'm not fully informed of, and I want to be able to make informed decisions as I move forward. So I know sometimes it's impossible to avoid buying certain products, but sometimes maybe the option is buying secondhand, or really just using your items until they are absolutely completely finished and no longer working, minimizing consumption. So anyway, I wanted to read this book. I got it from my library. I'm on the Libby app, so I have the audiobook and the ebook, and I plan to listen to that this month. I should say that almost all of those books I plan to listen to as audiobooks, with the exception of State and Revolution by Lenin, which I plan to read the physical book. So thank you very much for watching the list of books that I plan to read in August. I'm hoping I can actually get to all of them. June and July were really busy, and in those months I managed to get through 4 books and 3 books. So I'm hoping that with more time I can get through more books, but I might be being a little bit too ambitious with this list. If you're new to my channel, this channel is all about re-education and decolonizing the mind. I created this channel because I plan to go on a journey of reading and learning new things and decolonizing my mind, and I wanted to create this channel to share the books that I'm reading with people out there in the world. So if you are interested in following along with me on this journey, feel free to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching till the end. I greatly appreciate it. If anyone has read any of these books, please let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions for books that you think I might like, please let me know. And I also just wanted to say, so last month I read Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which I am gonna make a whole video on, and I'm gonna do a monthly wrap-up, so you can check that out if you want to see what that book's about. But it's really focused on education and how to educate people without sort of a top-down education model of, you know, teachers sharing information and students listening. It talks about the need for dialogue instead. And so anyway, I just want to figure out how I can make my YouTube channel more of a place of dialogue as opposed to one person sharing information with the others. So please, I really do appreciate people commenting, and I want to be able to get dialogues going. I don't think it should be that I'm here sharing this knowledge with other people. I think it should be conversations going back and forth. And yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to actually have that happen on my channel, but I think one way is through communication in the comment section. So yeah, thank you, and please comment down below if you have any thoughts or want to share anything. Thank you so much for watching and making it this far. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. It just allows this video to be shared with more people out there on YouTube, and I will see you in the next one.